Hello, Herrera students. It's Mrs. Brown again, coming to you live from the Herrera Garden. I missed you all. It's been a month or so since I've seen you, so I wanted to make this video for you to bring you one last nature thinking lesson for the year, and also to talk to you a little bit about what next year might look like. So as you can see, I've got this beautiful part of the garden behind me where all of our oak tree is growing and those poppy flowers that we talked about earlier. But the other part of the garden is missing a few things that we need to grow our plants, isn't it? Yes, we decided to take advantage of this time when we're not quite all at school together to rebuild your garden. So I wanted to show you this real quickly because not all of you are on site having lessons right now. Over here, looks like a little fort, but it's all of our new garden boxes that I helped build with Mrs. Taylor and a couple of other helpers. And there's all the new soil we need. So in a few weeks, we are going to take these boxes and set them back over in the garden space and get it all ready for next year for all of us to learn together. And by the way, if you see Mr. Ferris around school, be sure to thank him because he did a lot of the work of rebuilding this garden as well. So your new and improved garden is coming soon, and hopefully me and the other teachers with Ground Education, which is the name of my nonprofit that teaches in school gardens, will be here learning alongside you in the brand new garden, and we'll explore nature together. I'm really looking forward to that. In the meantime, though, I want to talk a little bit about patterns, because once we start to think about it, patterns are everywhere in nature, and they help us kind of think logically and know what to expect, what will come next. So let's take a few minutes and think about patterns together and look at this snail. Oh my gosh, have you ever seen a snail up close? They're super slimy, crawling insects that love gardens. But today I want to talk about the shape of that shell on their back. Can you draw that with your finger? What do you see? I see a circle getting tighter and tighter and tighter as it gets to the middle. Do you know what that shape is called? It's called a spiral or a swirl, and it's one of the patterns that we see all the time in nature. All right, patterns are everywhere once we open our eyes to it. Look at this animal on the bottom. You might even know what that animal is, but notice how this animal's skin has a black line and then a white line and then a black line and then a white line. What would you call that pattern? I would call it stripes. Maybe you agree with me. Why do you think the animal is striped? What purpose do you think that has? Because when we talked before about things in nature, we know nothing's by accident. We know nature has a lot of good ideas. So I wonder what the purpose of that stripy pattern is. What pattern do you see here? This might not be a pattern that you're as familiar with, but it's still a pattern. You know what that is? Can you guess what that is? All right, patterns we know. I bet whether you're in TK or fifth grade, you've done some patterns with your teacher. And patterns let us know what comes next. Let's look at this one. Green square, blue square, green, green, blue, green, green, blue. What do you think comes next? I bet you know. Could it be a yellow pineapple that comes next? Could it be a pink triangle that comes next? No, it couldn't, because a pattern tells us what to expect, right? We know how to follow patterns with our brains, and we know pretty certainly that a green square is going to come next in that example. How about a tree, though? Have you ever thought about the fact that a tree has a pattern? If you stand under a tree and notice what happens as the trunk gets taller and taller, you'll notice that the branches start to come off the side of the trunk, and they make a very certain pattern. They come out and the branch will then split into two, and then each of those sides will split into two more. It's actually called a branching pattern. And it's something we see all the time in nature. Next time you're up next to a tree, look up and see if you can notice the branching pattern. How about waves? Can you show me how a wave pattern works? That's another pattern that we're used to in nature. If you take a jump rope, you and a friend hold different sides and you move the jump rope end up and down like this, you're going to see a wave pattern in that too. All right. One of my favorite patterns is symmetry. And bilateral symmetry means same as one side as the other. So if we take a butterfly and we draw a line down the middle of the butterfly, if we were to fold those butterflies' wings together across that line, we'd notice they're the same on both sides. That's called symmetry. How about a face? How about if you draw a line right down the center of you and your face? Maybe if somebody's next to you, you could turn to them and look at their face and they can look at yours. Is it the same on both sides? Are your eyes the same on both sides of your face? Are your smiles the same on both sides of your face? Maybe your hair's not the same. But usually our faces and our bodies are symmetrical bilaterally. One side matches the other. Okay, another shape we see all the time in nature is what's called a hexagon. Look at this honeycomb that the bees have made. Let's count the sides together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sides. That is a shape that's very efficient in nature. The bees chose that shape because it lets them make many, many openings very close together. They can fill a lot of the space here with holes for their honey and for their bodies if they need to. So a hexagon shape is known to be, well, it's quite beautiful, I think, but it's also known to be a very efficient way to get a lot of shapes close together, a lot of holes close together. It's also known to be pretty strong. So it's a shape that nature chooses lots of the time. Oh, and then my probably absolute favorite is the spiral, like the snail shell. Look at this close-up of the butterfly. What is that coming out of its face? Do you know what that is? Look, I'm tracing it with my little pointer here. That's like their tongue. It's called a proboscis. There's an announcement at your school. Okay, I think Miss Fieri's done with her announcement. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to go back to talking about that butterfly and its spiral tongue called a proboscis. So if you can picture a butterfly flying around in your garden here, when that butterfly is hungry, it wants to drink the nectar from inside the center of a flower. So that spiral-shaped proboscis or tongue lets that butterfly uncurl a very long tongue to reach all the way down to the center of even the deepest flowers. So spirals can be a really important shape in nature as well. They let things uncurl and stretch out. Any idea what animal is attached to this spiral here? I'll give you a hint. Lives in the sea. All right. When we have a pattern that repeats again and again and again in a circle, we call that a cycle. And I know we all looked at some cycles together in the garden this year, right? We did the chicken cycle. We talked about how a chicken lays an egg and that egg hatches into a baby, and we all watch the baby chickens move and eat. And when that baby chicken grows up, if it's a female, it will lay more eggs, and that cycle of birth will happen over and over again. Same with our banana peel, right? We know that a banana grew on a tree. Mrs. Brown ate the banana, then we put that peel under our rock and watched it turn back into soil where more bananas or anything else we wanted to plant can grow. That is a cycle when it repeats over and over. Now, how about recycle? I bet that's a word you've all heard somewhere in your life. It's got the word cycle in it. Recycle, something else we can learn from nature. It means using something in a circular way, right? think about a t-shirt. A t-shirt's made from cotton, and cotton grows in a garden. It's a little puffy plant right here, and that puffy part gets picked and made into t-shirts and other things. But what happens when you're done with that t-shirt? Do we throw it away and stop the cycle, or are there other things we can do to use things in a circle? I'm going to play this video from Audrey, and we're going to watch what she decides to do.
Every day, we engage in cycles. Patterns are like clues from nature, showing us how things are organized and connected. What might these patterns be telling us? Now let's think back to other patterns or cycles that we've experienced together. How can these cycles help us think in new ways? Where else can we try to think in cycles? By observing these patterns, we might see a creative place to jump in and make a change.
All right, my garden friends, that's it for me today. Thank you for getting a chance to watch this video and thinking about patterns in nature today. And if you get a chance, come out to the garden if you get a chance to walk by, or any place near you, and see what patterns you can find. I bet you can find branching. I bet you can find symmetry. I bet you can find a spiral, and you might even find some other patterns that we didn't talk about today. All right, I'm also going to send your teachers some activities that you can do on your own to keep thinking about patterns, including making a pattern snack, doing some yoga in patterns, and reading a book called Swirl by Swirl. I cannot wait to garden with you and grow with you in this garden next year, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful summer break if I don't see you again, and I will see you in the fall. Bye-bye.